I'm Marcus Graham, and I just bought this land fair and square. So tell me why you're standing here like you own it today.
I'm Brinley Fairmont, president of the Meadowbrook Estates HOA, and you owe us $15,000 in back dues immediately.
There's nothing here but prairie and cows, Brinley Fairmont. So explain how empty farmland belongs to your HOA.
The previous owners signed binding covenants, Marcus Graham, and those obligations transfer to you whether you like it or not.
I have my deed in my hand, and it says agricultural land with no association, no fees, and no authority over me.
Deeds don't erase contracts, Marcus, and my HOA enforces standards people like you don't understand.
You're threatening me over dirt and wind, and that tells me this isn't about rules, it's about money.
If you don't pay, liens will be filed, commissioners contacted, and your life will become very difficult.
I'm a diesel mechanic, Brinley, and I know when an engine's about to blow, and yours sounds ready to explode.
Then prepare yourself, Marcus Graham, because Meadowbrook Estates always gets what it's owed.
3 weeks earlier, Marcus Graham had been flat on his back beneath a rust-streaked Peterbilt. The smell of oil and hot metal soaked permanently into his skin. The garage floor was cold even in summer, and the vibration of the truck still echoed in his arms when his phone buzzed inside his pocket. He almost ignored it. Calls during work hours were usually spam or reminders that bills didn't wait for exhaustion, but something made him answer. The news arrived quietly, without drama. His grandfather had passed in his sleep. No long illness, no drawn-out goodbyes, just an ending. And with it came a modest inheritance, $50,000, and a handwritten note that carried more weight than the money ever could. A reminder that life was not meant to be spent entirely under machines, breathing fumes, postponing peace until retirement that might never come. For 12 years, Marcus had accepted pain as routine. Cracked knuckles, a spine that protested every morning, a future measured in hours billed instead of moments lived. He didn't hate the work, but he hated what it stole from him. Quiet, time, space to breathe. He didn't want luxury. He wanted land, honest land, something that didn't lie to him. That was how he found the auction. Buried deep in a government site few people bothered to scroll through. 200 acres in Nebraska, agricultural zoning, no development, back taxes unpaid. Starting bid, $2,000. It felt like a mistake, or a trap. But Marcus had spent his life fixing mistakes others gave up on. He did the research, county records, zoning maps, old aerial photos. Everything checked out. The drive out felt unreal. The city fell away mile by mile, replaced by open sky and long, patient roads. Meadowlarks cut across the air like punctuation marks. Fence lines stretched toward the horizon, quiet and unbothered. When Marcus stepped out of his truck, the land didn't feel empty. It felt observant, waiting. He pressed soil between his fingers, darker than he expected, rich and unspoiled. For the first time in years, his chest loosened. The auction ended without drama. One bidder dropped out early. $2,000 bought Marcus a future he hadn't dared imagine. Paperwork followed, deeds cleared, ownership transferred, everything clean. Then came Wednesday. East of his property stood a mansion that did not belong. Marble drive, sculpted hedges, wealth announced loudly in a place that never asked for it. When Brinley Fairmont approached, heels sinking slightly into the dirt, binder held tight against her chest, Marcus felt the temperature change. She spoke of standards, of community, of obligations that sounded rehearsed but hollow. Covenants that supposedly predated his purchase, yet smelled of fresh ink and hurried assembly. She didn't ask questions. She made statements. She didn't negotiate. She warned. And when Marcus hesitated, confusion flickering into resistance, the threats sharpened. Fines, legal action, forced compliance.
delivered calmly, confidently, like this was a script she'd followed before. That night, sleep refused to come. Marcus replayed every word, every look. Brinley wasn't mistaken, she was deliberate, and people who moved that fast weren't new to intimidation. That realization shifted something inside him. This wasn't just about land anymore. By morning, Marcus wasn't just defending a dream. He was stepping into a confrontation that demanded resolute. The county courthouse stood like it always had, unremarkable and sturdy, holding decades of disputes inside its walls. The air smelled faintly of dust and old files. Dolores, the clerk behind the counter, didn't look surprised when Marcus explained why he was there. That alone was telling. She had seen this before. Not once, not twice, enough times to recognize the pattern. Calmly, she pulled records, maps, and filings, laying them out with the ease of someone who trusted facts more than threats. Marcus watched the story assemble itself piece by piece. His deed was clean. The land had been zoned agricultural since the late 1960s. No HOA jurisdiction, no amendments, no loopholes. Meadowbrook Estates existed, but only as a small cluster surrounding the Fairmount property. It had boundaries, legal ones, and Marcus's land was well outside them. Then came the forgery. A consent form bearing Marcus's name, a signature so poorly forged it was almost insulting. Dolores explained she had refused to file it, trusting instincts sharpened by decades of watching power attempt to disguise itself as paperwork. That single refusal preserved evidence, evidence that turned annoyance into fraud. The pressure escalated immediately after that visit. Letters multiplied, fees increased, new management companies appeared overnight, all with mailing addresses that traced back to the same network. It wasn't about legality, it was about exhaustion, about forcing compliance through relentless inconvenience. Marcus documented everything, dates, names, letterheads. He let the Fairmonts believe it was working. Surveillance followed. When a Tesla began lingering near his property line, Marcus contacted the sheriff. Deputy Reynolds confirmed what Marcus feared most. Others had paid, quietly, out of fear. Land lost, dreams abandoned. When federal authorities noticed patterns stretching beyond county lines, everything shifted. Similar complaints, similar tactics, different states. The Fairmont operation wasn't local, it was systematic. When Brinley tried to reframe the situation with false reports, trail cameras and continuous footage dismantled her claims effortlessly. In the courthouse basement, old records sealed the truth. Permanent protections, forged names of men long dead, digital trails leading back to the Fairmont estate. This wasn't opportunism, it was premeditated theft. Marcus wasn't the first target, he was simply the one who didn't look away. The strategy required restraint. Marcus had learned patience the hard way, rebuilding engines where rushing meant failure. With federal guidance and careful coordination, the plan took shape. Greed would expose itself. It always did. A fabricated inspection tied to imaginary agricultural grants was introduced into the community, quietly, casually. Surveillance was installed professionally, legally, thoroughly. Every angle covered, every word preserved. As the inspection date approached, desperation surfaced. Threats softened into offers, offers into panic. Sabotage followed, captured in precise clarity. Poisoned crops, trespassing, evidence stacked neatly, undeniable. When Brinley arrived on inspection day, confidence clashed with authority she didn't control. Bribes were attempted, threats issued, forged documents presented, all of it recorded, all of it witnessed. By the time federal agents stepped forward, the performance had already collapsed. Arrests were immediate, public, final. Handcuffs replaced binders. Neighbors gathered, relief louder than celebration. News cameras documented a reckoning years overdue. Documents were corrected, land protections reinforced, authority restored to its rightful place. The Fairmonts had mistaken quiet for weakness. They learned instead that quiet communities remember, connect, and respond when pushed too far. 6 months later, the land spoke differently. Corn stood tall. Fences were mended. Fear had evaporated. Restitution returned dignity to families long silenced. Prison sentences closed a chapter that stretched across states, and new protections emerged in its wake. Marcus's farm became more than property. It became proof. Shared equipment replaced false fees. Cooperation replaced intimidation. A scholarship fund grew quietly. Prairie restoration followed. The land healed alongside the people who defended it. Each morning, Marcus walked the fence line, listening to meadowlarks instead of threats. When others called for guidance, he answered, passing forward the lesson that stopped a scam and strengthened a community. What began as an attempt to steal ended as a reminder. Land remembers those who stand for it, and sometimes refusing to step aside is enough to change everything.